The story behind the hymn, I Surrender, are some hymns that are simply sung, and there are some hymns that are born out of deep personal struggle. The hymn, I Surrender All, belongs to the second kind. For more than a century, believers around the world have lifted their voices and sung, All to Jesus I surrender. But behind those famous words lies the story of a man wrestling with God's calling, a man standing between comfort and obedience, a man who discovered that true peace only comes through total surrender. This is the story behind the beloved hymn, I Surrender All. The author of the hymn was a man named Judson W. Van Deventer. He was born in Michigan in the United States. In the year 1855, as a young man, Van Deventer was talented in many ways. He loved art. He studied drawing and painting, and eventually became an art teacher in public schools. By all outward appearances, he had a successful and respectable future ahead of him. He was educated. He had a stable profession. He was talented. And yet, something was missing deep within his heart. Van Deventer sensed that God was calling him into ministry, not just to attend church, not just to believe in God privately, but to dedicate his life fully to preaching the gospel. And that calling became impossible to ignore. For years, Judson Van Deventer lived in an internal battle. One side of him wanted security. The other side wanted obedience to God. He loved teaching art. But every day he felt the Holy Spirit drawing him toward evangelism. The struggle became exhausting. He knew God was calling him. But surrendering completely meant giving up control over his future. It meant leaving behind comfort. It meant stepping into uncertainty. And like many believers, he hesitated. How many people today are exactly the same? They hear God speaking, but fear keeps them from fully obeying. They want God close enough to bless them, but not close enough to completely lead them. That was the condition of Van Deventer's heart. For a long time, he resisted total surrender. Then came the defining moment of his life. Van Deventer later described it as the pivotal hour. After years of wrestling with God, he finally bowed his heart completely before the Lord. No more resistance. No more divided loyalty. No more hesitation. He surrendered everything. His ambitions, his career, his future, his entire life. And in that sacred moment, peace flooded his soul. Later, he wrote these words describing the experience. At last, the pivotal hour of my life came, and I surrendered all. A new day was ushered into my life. That surrender changed everything. Once he fully yielded himself to God, he became an evangelist and began preaching across America and beyond. And from that life-changing experience came the words that would touch millions. In